All right, so imagine this. You're on the edge of a river. It's powerful. It's rushing by. You feel this pull to jump in, to go with that flow.
Yeah.
But there's this something holding you back, like you're clinging to a branch on the bank. That feeling of wanting to move forward but being afraid to let go. Have you ever felt something like that?
Oh, absolutely. That's a really powerful image. And as someone who, explores human psychology, I see that all the time. That tension between wanting to change, to grow, but also being terrified to leave what's familiar behind.
Right.
And for those who, love to learn, to dig deep, Buddhist philosophy really shines a light on why we cling to things and how we can learn to let go.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. We've got this amazing text that uses stories and real-world examples to help us understand these ancient Buddhist ideas.
Yeah.
And our goal, well, we're going to unpack this human habit of holding on tight,
Yeah.
which Buddhism calls upadana. We'll see how understanding concepts like aniko, the idea that everything is always changing, and bodhicitta, that seed of compassion within us. And of course, we can't forget about karma, cause and effect. Oh, and metta, loving kindness, vipassana, the practice of insight and that balanced path of the middle way.
Yeah.
All these ideas can help us ride the waves of life instead of getting pulled under.
Absolutely. And what I find so fascinating about these principles is that they're not just some abstract theories.
Right.
They're like practical tools to understand how you think, how you feel, and ultimately how you act and react to everything in life.
Okay, so let's go back to that river image for a second.
Yeah.
The text we're using really emphasizes how clinging this upadana to the familiar, whether it's routines or beliefs, or even our fears, can actually stop us from truly experiencing life to the fullest.
Mm.
I mean, we might feel secure on that riverbank,
Right.
but are we really living? Are we really growing?
I think that's the question, isn't it? And it's often when we think about starting something new that this resistance, this fear pops up.
Yeah.
You might have this incredible idea, a burning desire to change your path, but then doubt creeps in. The comfort of what you know holds you back.
This reminds me of that quote, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek."
Wow, that's so true. And when you think about the story of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, it just hits home.
Yeah.
I mean, here was this guy living a life of luxury, comfort, everything you could want, but he felt this deep unease, this awareness of suffering in the world.
And he made the incredibly brave decision to leave all of that security behind.
Exactly.
He stepped into the unknown to search for enlightenment. That's like the ultimate example of choosing the river, embracing the flow of life, instead of staying stuck on a shore that's comfortable but maybe not truly fulfilling.
And what's so striking is that he wasn't chasing a specific outcome.
Yeah.
He was driven by this profound curiosity and a need to understand suffering, that willingness to face the unknown head-on without letting fear paralyze him. That's huge. That's a massive first step in loosening that grip we have on all those things we cling to in our own lives.
It really makes you think, what are the shores I'm clinging to?
Right.
Maybe it's a job that pays the bills but drains my soul.
Yeah.
Or the fear of what people will think if I finally chase that dream I've always had.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe even staying in a relationship that just doesn't feel right anymore because starting over is scary.
It is scary, and the text makes a really important point. It's human nature to want certainty. We crave control. Our brains are wired that way. It's a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
But beating ourselves up for feeling fear, that doesn't help.
Well,
The first step is to acknowledge that fear is there.
right.
Just observe it without judgment, like noticing a cloud passing overhead,
It's a way to reframe fear, right? To see it not as a flaw, but as a signal. Like, hey, you're stepping outside your comfort zone.
Mhm.
And the text suggests that's exactly where the good stuff happens, the growth, the learning.
Yeah.
And then comes this really key question. What am I really afraid of? And when we're honest with ourselves about that,
Often what we find is that those fears are based on a bunch of what-ifs assumptions about things that might never even happen. We create these worst-case scenarios in our minds, and they trap us in the present, stopping us from taking that leap into the river.
you know what really struck me in the text? This analogy of kintsugi. It's this Japanese art form where they repair broken pottery with gold. They don't hide the cracks, they highlight them. So you end up with something that's beautiful and resilient. It's like a metaphor for our own lives, for our experiences.
It totally changes how we view our struggles, right? Instead of being ashamed of our mistakes or trying to hide them, they become part of who we are. Proof that we've healed, that we've grown stronger. The gold in those cracks, that's the wisdom and resilience we gain from going through those tough times.
So the takeaway here is to stop seeing failures as blemishes and start recognizing them as, like badges of honor.
I love that. And when we do that, when we acknowledge our feels, question them, and reframe how we see challenges, we start to let go of that tight grip on the shore of fear. And that brings us to this whole idea of control, or the illusion of control.
Right, because we spend so much energy trying to control things that we just can't.
Right.
We make plans, we set expectations, and then life happens.
Exactly. Things change.
Yeah.
A project takes a detour, a relationship evolves, our health throws us a curveball.
And all of a sudden, that sense of control we were clinging to just crumbles. And that's where the frustration and suffering kick in.
It is. And the text ties this beautifully to the Buddhist concept of anicca.
Mm.
The fact that everything is constantly changing. It's not just the big life events, it's everything. Our thoughts, our emotions, relationships, even our bodies. Nothing stays the same.
And yeah, realizing that everything is impermanent, it can be a bit unsettling at first, like nothing's really permanent. But the text highlights the flip side of that, the empowering part.
Yes.
When we stop resisting change, when we accept it as the natural order of things, we free up so much energy. We become adaptable, resilient. It's realizing that holding on to the idea of permanence in a world that's constantly changing, well, that's just setting ourselves up for disappointment.
Yeah. It's like, imagine a surfer riding a wave. They don't try to control the wave. They observe it, they move with it, they use their skill to ride that energy.
It's about being in sync with the flow, not fighting against it.
And this is where mindfulness meditation comes in. It's such a valuable tool. It's about noticing your thoughts and emotions as they come and go without getting swept away by them. You start to see how fleeting they are. That worry that felt so huge an hour ago, it's gone.
It's like watching clouds, isn't it? They drift by, they change shapes, they disappear. We don't try to grab onto them.
Right.
And when we observe our inner world like that, it helps us stay calm. We don't get thrown off balance by every little thing that pops up.
Exactly. There's this great story in the text about Maya who left a super stable corporate job to follow her passion and open a yoga studio.
Brave.
Right. She must have had fears about money, about what people would say. But through mindfulness, she found the courage to let go of that need for control, to embrace the unknown.
And she ended up finding way more fulfillment by letting go, which honestly, that seems to be a recurring theme, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The things we're so scared to let go of might be the very things holding us back from a truly meaningful life. The text puts it pretty bluntly. Let go or be dragged.
It's like a wake-up call, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about the cost of resisting the natural flow of things. It underscores that real change often requires a leap of faith. Trust in yourself, trust that you can adapt and learn, and even trust in the way life unfolds, even when it doesn't go according to our plans.
So we've talked about impermanence, the illusion of control. Now we've got to talk about the courage to actually take action, to start fresh when life's telling us it's time for something new.
Yeah, that moment when you take that first step into uncharted territory.
It's scary.
It is. Every big change, every new chapter in life starts with that single step. And that's when we come face to face with our deepest insecurities.
And the text points out that courage, in Buddhist thinking, isn't about not feeling fear. It's about moving forward, even though you're afraid. And then there's bodhicitta, that wish for everyone, not just ourselves, to be free from suffering.
It's a powerful idea, that desire to ease suffering in the world. It becomes a source of strength, doesn't it? Knowing that our actions, our own transformations, can create a ripple effect, can help others. That gives us the courage to face our own challenges with more resilience.
And I love that practical exercise in the text. Write down 3 fears that are holding you back, and then come up with one small thing you could do today to start overcoming each one.
Yeah, such a good exercise.
It's a reminder that big change doesn't have to happen all at once. It's about those consistent small steps that chip away at fear and build momentum.
Absolutely. When we focus on the end goal, change can feel overwhelming. But break it down into manageable steps, celebrate those little wins along the way. It keeps us motivated.
And like the text says, setbacks aren't failures. They're learning opportunities, like a sculptor refining their work.
Right.
Which leads perfectly to the next big idea, the mirror of the mind. It's this idea that we're not just navigating the external world, we're also dealing with our own inner world, our thoughts, our emotions.
Exactly. That constant chatter in our minds, the way we think and feel, it all shapes how we see and interact with reality. And here's where karma comes in. The text emphasizes how much power our thoughts, intentions, and actions have in shaping our experiences.
It's cause and effect, right?
Yeah. What we cultivate internally, we experience externally. If we're constantly focusing on negativity, on fear and self-doubt, that's what we're going to see in our lives. But if we choose to nurture positivity, compassion, then we start to create a different reality for ourselves and everyone around us.
But changing those deep-rooted negative patterns, that can be tough, right? Those habits of thinking and feeling can feel so stuck. And that's where metta comes in, loving kindness meditation.
It is.
Sending kindness and compassion to ourselves and to others, even to people we find difficult.
Yeah.
That can start to break down those internal walls, the judgment, the feeling of separation.
It's so powerful. And there's this story in the text about Daniel, who used self-compassion to overcome depression. He realized that his biggest enemy was his own inner critic.
Wow.
By learning to treat himself with kindness, with metta, he was able to make a real, lasting change in his life.
It shows that so many of the limits we experience are self-created. They're based on these beliefs we hold about ourselves and the world. And the text introduces avidya, which often gets translated as ignorance. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of reality. And that misunderstanding leads to suffering.
It does. And to break free from that avidya, those limiting beliefs, the text gives us 3 things we can do. First, observe your thoughts without judging them. Second, see your failures as learning experiences. And third, use affirmations that are rooted in Dharma.
Like, I am worthy, or change is natural, or I have limitless potential. Exactly. Those might feel weird at first, but the more you repeat them, the more you pay attention to them, they start to change your subconscious mind. You replace those fear-based stories with something more empowering, something more freeing.
It's like becoming your own best friend, your own cheerleader.
Yeah.
So we've talked about clinging, impermanence, courage, inner transformation, and now the text takes us to a really deep idea, transforming suffering into something meaningful.
Yeah, the concept of dukkha. And the text makes it clear that this isn't about trying to avoid joy or pleasure.
Right.
It's about understanding that suffering is part of being human. And the key is recognizing that it can be a catalyst for growth, for profound change, for transcendence.
It's like alchemy, isn't it?
Exactly.
Turning lead into gold, taking those difficult experiences, the pain, the things we naturally want to avoid, and turning them into something valuable.
And Malala Yousafzai's story is such a perfect example of this. She faced unimaginable trauma, but instead of giving in to despair, she used her suffering to fight for girls' education. She turned her pain into a force for positive change.
Her story really makes us think about our own challenges, doesn't it? Instead of trying to escape or bury difficult experiences, maybe we should be asking ourselves, what can I learn from this? How can this experience help me understand and connect with others who are going through something similar? What qualities can I develop by working through this?
And the act of giving, Dana, even when we're struggling ourselves, is a huge part of Buddhism. It creates positive energy, punya, which benefits both the giver and the receiver. It helps us shift our focus outward, even in tough times.
And then there's Vipassana, insight meditation. It's another tool for working with suffering. It's about becoming deeply aware of our body, our emotions, and understanding that even the most intense pain is impermanent.
It is. When we realize that even the worst pain will eventually pass, it loses its grip on us. There's a simple practice. Focus on your breath, and whenever you feel discomfort, say to yourself, this too shall pass. It's a way to start building resilience.
So we've explored clinging, impermanence, courage, inner transformation, and even finding growth within suffering. Now, how do we actually put all of this into practice? The text introduces the idea of the middle way.
Yeah, the middle way is all about balance, avoiding extremes. In today's world, it's easy to get caught up in this constant striving, always chasing more, never feeling satisfied.
Right, always pushing, always hustling.
But the opposite extreme is just as problematic, giving up on our dreams, becoming complacent.
So the middle way is about finding that sweet spot in the middle. Striving for excellence without being consumed by it.
Yeah.
Cultivating contentment without becoming stagnant.
Exactly. And the text suggests 3 ways to cultivate this balanced approach.
Okay.
First, set clear intentions for your actions, but don't get too attached to specific outcomes. Second, practice gratitude every day. Focus on all the good things in your life. And third, celebrate those small wins along the way. It helps you stay motivated without becoming fixated on some far-off goal.
And this brings us back to the Buddha's journey.
Right.
He tried extreme indulgence, then extreme asceticism, and neither led him to enlightenment. It was only when he found the middle path, the path of moderation, that he finally awakened.
It's a powerful reminder that true success isn't just about reaching some external goal. It's about the journey of growth, about finding balance between our aspirations and our contentment.
And finally, the text ends with this beautiful image of the lotus flower growing out of mud.
Oh, such a powerful metaphor.
It represents transformation through adversity. The lotus doesn't bloom in pristine conditions. It needs the mud to nourish its growth.
Yeah.
And just like that, the difficult parts of our lives, the struggles, the challenges, those can be the very things that help us grow the most.
They can. And Priya's story is such a great example. She overcame incredible poverty and illness to become a successful entrepreneur. And she did that by shifting her perspective. She stopped seeing her struggles as punishments and started seeing them as opportunities for growth. As the text reminds us, suffering is a part of life. But how we choose to respond to that suffering, that's what matters. And to build that inner resilience, that ability to rise above challenges like the lotus, the text comes back to those three core principles.
Okay, remind me.
Understanding impermanence as liberation, practicing mindfulness to anchor ourselves in the present moment, and cultivating compassion for ourselves and others.
So realizing that everything changes, even the tough times, can help us let go of those negative feelings and the fear that they'll last forever.
Yeah.
And the practice of noticing something we're grateful for every day and acknowledging that our difficulties are temporary, that can really help us internalize this idea of impermanence.
It can. And mindfulness, being present in this moment without judgment, that gives us the space to respond to challenges with thoughtfulness instead of just reacting out of fear or overwhelm.
It reminds me of that Viktor Frankl quote. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. Mindfulness helps us create that space.
It does. And then there's compassion. Being kind to ourselves, especially when we're struggling, and being kind to others. Recognizing that we're all in this together, that we all experience hardship, that breaks down the feeling of isolation.
And there's that Tonglen practice, right? Where you visualize taking in the suffering of others and sending out compassion and healing light.
Right. It's a way to cultivate empathy and connection.
So the text ends by emphasizing how our personal transformations have this ripple effect. When we grow and heal, it doesn't just impact us, it inspires others. It contributes to a larger shift in consciousness.
It does, like Priya's story shows us. Overcoming personal challenges can lead to positive change in the world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's one small but meaningful step you, the listener, can take today? Inspired by these timeless principles, maybe it's writing a letter to your future self, starting a gratitude journal, or just taking a few moments to breathe mindfully.
Think of it as planting a seed. It might seem small now, but with care and attention, it can blossom into something amazing. Remember, transformation is a gradual process, like the unfolding of a lotus flower. Be patient with yourself and trust in your own potential.
And one last thought to leave you with. When you let go of what no longer serves you, when you embrace change, it's not just for you, it's part of something much bigger. It's part of a collective awakening. And you have a unique and important role to play in that.